There we go. That seems to have fired up. It took a minute. I wonder what happened there. Okay, so anyway, anywho, let's get this started up. Pinku Paints wore a suit jacket this week, so I said, just for you, I'm going to wear my Kung Fu shirt. I could lean into corporate manager. I got my suit and tie over there in the closet, obviously, but I kind of prefer to lean into grizzled old Kung Fu master. And it's related to what I wanted to talk about today. I got two major things, and the first one I kind of need to be more full screen for, and that is the difference between teaching, instruction, and coaching. So the thing is that, like, you can teach a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that you can't really teach. You can only instruct. You can tell people what to do, but they have to figure out how to do it. They have to learn how doing it works. And to give you an example, let's talk a little bit about how making a fist works in karate or kung fu. Most people, when they make a fist, they just curl all their fingers into a fist. But if you look at it, you'll notice that this knuckle kind of sticks out. Everything's sort of uneven. There's this weird sort of slope to it, okay? And different karate styles will teach you different stuff. And one of the things that your average karate style is going to teach is fold your fingers in before you fold your thumb. And look at how much straighter and flatter that is. That looks much better. That's a much better layout. But there's one particular kind of outlier, and that outlier is Okinawa, and they just go, oh, just don't fold your first knuckle. Don't fold the first knuckle of your finger. That's all you have to do right there. You just leave that sticking out, and you get this nice flat layout. Now, this is particularly important if you study a style where you have to cock your fist forward and strike with the top two knuckles. I'm a Wing Chun stylist, so we cock the fist backward, we strike with the bottom two knuckles. That's an uprooting principle. That's to break your opponent's connection with the ground, and if you break their connection with the ground, well, that's where your power comes from. If you can't get power from the ground, you can't strike with any power, and that means that you can't really counterattack. If you do this properly, it's really creepy and messed up, because people are just like punch you and punch you and punch you, but they don't have that connection with the ground. So there's no power in the punches. They can punch you over and over again, and you barely even notice it. It's ridiculous. This does not work well in point sparring. Like if you're in a tournament, okay, uprooting your opponent so that they can't get any power in a strike, they can still get the strike in and get the point. But regardless, if you're in a real fight, which is what I care about in terms of martial arts, I mean, they're martial. They're intended for war. They're intended to deal with an enemy. I'm interested in defeating the opponent, not in scoring points with a judge and not in looking good on camera. Those aren't the things I'm concerned about. But it's fairly easy to teach that. You can teach somebody how to make a fist. You say, here's how you do it. And they go, oh, well, I fold my fingers and then I fold my thumb over. That works well. Oh, I don't fold my first knuckle. That works well. I cock my hand forward. I cock my hand backward. There's not a whole lot of variation that you can have in there. You can teach that fairly easily. But then you have instruction. Instruction is where you're talking about how to keep your stance, how to balance, how to arrange your weight, the various techniques and whatnot. And I can tell you how to do that all day long, but in order for you to actually do it, you need to practice. You need to go and do it and get the feel of how it works, or it's never going to be something that you can just do. It's going to be something that you know about, but that you can't actually do. That's very important. And then you come to the third element, which is coaching. Coaching is where, in order to tell you how to do it right, I need to see what you're doing so I can see what you're doing wrong. Because there's just too much stuff you could be doing wrong. You have to do 300 things, and chances are very good you're doing like 280 of them right. but I need to see what you're doing so I can see the 20 things you're doing wrong, figure out which one's the most important, and get you to fix that one, and then the next one, and then the next one, until you've got everything right. That's how you make your progress to black belt, is by doing all 300 things right, but you need a coach to go, okay, work on this one, work on this one, work on this one, work on this one. Now, to use a non-kung fu example, a coach would teach you how to make free throws in basketball. And he would say something like, you're going to propel the ball with your dominant hand, and you're going to guide the ball with your non-dominant hand, and you're going to roll the ball off of your fingertips. Well, what the fuck does roll the ball off your fingertips mean? I mean, I think I'm doing that. Obviously, I think I'm doing that, but you need a coach to look at what you're doing and go, nah, that's wrong. You got to do it like this. No, you watch me do it like this. No, do it like this. No, like this. Now, you're holding the ball off to the side. A lot of people do this. They try to shoot their free throw from here. You shoot from directly in front of your face. It's from straight in front of your face, straight on, centered on the basket. People don't do that. People always try to go, okay, I'm going to propel with this hand and I'm going to put up this. This is especially common in baseball players. Baseball players are used to, in order to catch the ball, you want to look alongside the ball. You don't want to look directly at the ball. You want to look alongside the ball. You want your hand with the glove to be in front of the ball, not your face. Basketball is the opposite. You want your face in front of it. Basketball players learning to play baseball, they have the opposite problem. They get right in front of the ball. They get pegged in the head over and over again. And then they got brain damage. They can't fucking play anything. There are all of these problems that you bring in from other stuff that you've learned, and you have to unlearn them. You have to figure out the proper way to do it. From an instruction standpoint, learning how to drive a manual transmission car. Take your foot off the brake and put it on the gas as you let the clutch out. If you know how to drive a manual transmission car, you know that's how it works. You also know that saying that doesn't help you do it. It doesn't help one bit. You're going to be just as lost. The car's going to be lurching and cavorting all the way down the street, and you're going to look ridiculous. But once you get the feel of it, it's easy. You can do it without really thinking about it. And it is the same way with art instruction. And we're going to go back out of full screen now. We're going to go back to our usual bottom right thing. This is the comic page that I was working on over the course of the last week. And I actually completed it. I got all 12 pieces. I got all 12 panels done. So I'm happy with that. And I got it up as a time lapse by the end of the week. And I was happy with that. And I'm not happy with the art on it. I don't feel like I did a very good job. But it's finished. I did it. I got it done. That's the important thing. It's the thing I keep trying to do. Every once in a while, I get somebody complains. They go, you're missing teeth. I'm not missing teeth. They're right here. I'm just not wearing them. I get kind of self-conscious about it because people do complain. I did have somebody kind of make fun of me for it last week. I don't know why people do that. It's like, why? What's the point? Ha ha, you're not as attractive as you could be. Well, neither are you, but you're also a dick, so. I feel like I'm in the better position here. You're not attractive. Yeah, you're stupid. It's not like I'm trying to sleep with these people anyways. You're not attractive. Well, don't go out with me. When I don't ask you to go out with me, you'll sit there and go, oh, well, that's a good thing, because I would have said no. I wasn't going to ask. Fuck off. Yeah, but anyway, that's the comic that I was working on, and I got that completed. But what I actually want to talk about right now is I saw somebody complaining and saying anatomy was boring. This guy, Widget ENV tuber. He's not bad content. He does some good stuff. He's a good guy, but he was complaining that anatomy is boring, and I got to thinking about this. And you recall a couple of weeks ago I said that still life is supposed to be boring. And it is because, of reasons. But here's the thing. I got to thinking about what makes still life boring. What makes it boring when you're looking at a still life piece? And I kind of came to this realization. And it's a fairly important one, I think. So I'm going to go over it a little bit. And the thing is that if I jump in here and I grab a little, if I grab myself, excuse me, I think I got the mic turned down soon enough for that. If we come down here and we grab like something with some dramatic lighting in here, let's just take a look at this. Man, I need to blow my nose. Hold on a second. So let's take a look at everything there is to be looking at in here. Oops. And we'll start off, let me use something interesting that you can actually see on the background of this brush stroke. Let's make it a little bit bigger, actually. How's that? Is that good? That's good. Okay. So first of all, the thing that I want you to notice is, I want you to notice that we've got this light, okay? And we've got the direct light, and we've got this ambient light. Now over here on the cube, you've got a plane change. These are different colors. These are all different colors. You don't have a plane change on the cylinder except on the top. You got a plane change on the cylinder at the top, but because it's the same height and the same angle, you see that the values between the two are the same. You can also see when you look at this that you've got a fairly sharp edge on the shadows over here. The edge on that shadows is pretty sharp. But you also see that we've got this kind of ghost shadow off to the side because of the bounce light that's coming off of different areas of the environment. You can see that we have a little sort of light cone that's coming out from, I believe I was using a flashlight for this. You've got your shadow over here on the round cylinder. This edge in particular, I want you to notice that it has a specular highlight as it rounds over. And as the radius of that increases, the size of that specular highlight is going to increase. You can see the wood grain on both pieces here. You can see the colors. You can see the color of the background. You can see the color of the light source shading. You can see the amount of the ambient light. And the reason all of this is so quote-unquote boring is because there's so goddamn much of it that you look at it and you go, I can't learn anything from this. There's nothing to learn here. It's just a cylinder and a box. Well, like Bruce Lee said, kind of keeping with the martial arts theme, when I started, a punch was just a punch. Then a punch became much more than a punch, and then a punch was just a punch. So the thing about still life is, you're looking at still life and you're going, still life is just still life. Still life is much more than still life. Still life is a study in color. It's a study in form. It's a study in plane changes, curved surfaces, straight surfaces, perspective, overlapping, shadows, how light and shadow interact, cast shadows, all of these various elements that go together in this, the texture of your objects. All of that fits together, and there's just so much of it that you can't separate it all out. It's a mess. It's this complete indecipherable mess that you're looking at. And because you're looking at this indecipherable mess, you don't know what to do with it. So what you have to do is you have to separate it down. You have to go, I only care about certain aspects of this. So let's talk a little bit about what makes anatomy so boring. There's just too much stuff to learn. So what you want to start with is something very simple. And here are some things that I've used as warm-ups that you may find useful and interesting to do yourself. And the first one is just put a dot somewhere on the page. It can be anywhere on the page. I put it pretty much in the middle. And then what you want to do is you want to take your stylus or pen or whatever away from the page, and you want to bring it in, and in one smooth motion, you want to bring it to your tablet or your paper, and you want to draw a line from wherever that pen lands to the dot. You want to do it very quickly, very smoothly, very evenly. And your goal is hit the dot. That's your only goal. That's the only thing you're trying to do. Hit the dot. Now here, I came in a little bit low. Came in a little bit low on that dot. I didn't do it perfectly. You're not going to do it perfectly every time. In fact, you're never going to do it perfectly every time. But all you're trying to do, put your pen down and immediately draw to the dot. Put your pen down and immediately draw to the dot. Put your pen down and immediately draw to the dot. You don't want to hook over. You want to go straight to the dot. You want to go straight over to the dot. See, we got a curve there. And you can check these. You can check these fairly simply by just pulling out the linear ruler, and you can go, okay, did I do a good job on that one? No, not really. Did I do a good job on that one? Yeah, kind of. I did a pretty good job on there. What about this one? That one's not bad. It wavers a little bit. What about this one over here? Again, you know, it's pretty good. It wavers a little bit. This one, oh, this one's just garbage. This one's way off. And as you go through and you do this, you'll get better at it. And when we zoom in here, when we go, okay, let's come in here and look. If we look at our original dot, you know, I'm coming in a little bit over, a little bit under, a little bit to the side. You want to try to hit it perfectly, but you don't have to hit it perfectly. Once you feel that you're pretty good at this, well, now you just take it up a notch. And now the thing that you want to do is you want to make a second dot on the page. You want to go, okay, here's a dot over here. Helps if you actually use the correct tool. Here's a dot over here. Now, once you've put that dot over here, you go back to your dot in the middle of the page and you draw smoothly from one to the other. Do that a whole bunch of times. Now, your job is not to be fast, it's to be smooth. And again, you are trying not to overshoot, not to undershoot, and to keep your lines as straight as possible. And you can check that using the linear ruler. And you can check that by zooming in and going, how close did I get on that? Like I zoom in on this, I go over here and I say, okay, here in this area, I hit the dot, but just barely. And I started a little bit too fast on that. This line here swoops too much. This line here is pretty good. You just do a whole bunch of those, okay? And then what you can do is you can do the third part. Now, I was talking to Pinku Paints about this on his stream, and I was saying, add a third dot. And he was like, what does that even mean? Man, that was the worst one yet. He's like, what does that even mean, add a third dot? Add a third dot. Do that a few times. From one to the other, add a third dot. Draw a curve through the third dot. Try to hit it perfectly. If you don't hit it perfectly, you might want to try again. If you don't hit it perfectly, that's fine. If you don't hit it at all, you might want to try it again. It's not easy. It takes work. It takes effort. And I'm doing particularly bad at it today. Usually I do better at it. But you draw one dot, you draw the other dot, you go directly from the first dot to the second dot. Not from the second dot to the first, because you draw first, you draw second, and your pen's already here. No, lift it, take it back to the first dot. You want to draw directly to the second dot. You want to go smooth, not fast. The important thing is you come down on the paper and you immediately draw over. Then when you add that third dot, you go through that, because this is what most of your work is going to be. Most of your work is going to be drawing a known curve. You need to draw a jaw line. Well, a jaw line starts here, ends here, and it goes through that curve. That's a jaw line. And there you've just got a straight line that comes up here. That's where your nose sits. This is everything that you do in art, is you draw a line from this point to this point. You start out knowing that you need to draw a line from here to here. You know where the line goes. You draw from one point to another point. You go from this point to that point. You know where the other point is. That's all your drawing is to draw specifically between these areas. And learning to draw straight lines and curves is literally the only thing you need to learn. It's the only thing you ever do, and you can learn from it fairly quickly. And because you have very simple, basic, understandable goals, you draw this dot in the middle of the paper. And when you draw your line to it, is your line straight? Well, you can check that. Use your linear ruler. It's mostly straight. It's not that bad. It's close. It's not awful. And you can zoom in on it. You can zoom in on it to make sure that you got where you wanted to get. You can make sure that you went directly from your starting point to your ending point and you didn't come up short. You don't want to come up short. You don't want to overshoot. You don't want to go off to the side in either direction. You want to hit directly on that dot in the middle. And you can do that from anywhere. You can do it in any direction. And then there's the additional exercise that I do. This one's going to break your head, okay? This one is not easy. You start with your standard line from point A to point B. And you put your third dot fairly far out. You draw your curve up through and down. And now you want to go inside of that curve and you want to try and keep your line the same width away from the last one, the whole way through. And you do it again. This is another skill you're going to need as you continue your drawing journey. As you continue learning your stuff, you're going to have to do this. And I can instruct you on what to do, but you have to do it. And when you get all the way to the middle here, get all the way to the middle, now go in between. Yet another skill that you're going to have to learn. Going in between. You want to try not to touch the other lines. Sometimes you will fail because you got them too close together. But you want to keep going through and drawing in between all the way along. And you want to critique your work as you go. You want to go, am I better at drawing them small? Am I better at drawing them big? And you want it to be smooth. You don't want to be halting. You don't want to be stopping every now and then. You don't want to do the hairy line shit like that. And these exercises, these 5 exercises, that all build on each other, because you could start from here and you can draw a whole bunch of lines and you can just go, oh, I'm doing a bad job, but you're warming up. You're getting yourself into the groove. Once you really start falling into that, you go, okay, yeah. Once you really get that kind of going, then you delete all of that and you start going, okay. One to the other. Go in opposite directions. Do your diagonals. Notice that some diagonals are easier for you than others. I find this one and this one particularly hard. When I'm coming from the left, go in unusual directions. Go very long lines, go very short lines. If I'm covering the dot with my hand, it's hard for me to remember exactly where it is. And that's where you might want to jump in and flip your canvas. That's a useful thing. You can do that. You can go, okay, I'm going from here to here, and then I'm going from here to here. Well, I can't see that other line. I can flip the canvas. Now I can see it. That's a useful technique. Now, obviously, I'm trying to learn how to go through the area where my hand is. But once you get a bunch of those done, then you start doing your 3 ways. After you've done a few of those, you start doing your concentrics. When you get really good, you can just start on your 3 ways and concentrics. Try doing it in both directions. Try doing it flat first, then curved. Vary your approach. Try different things. See what's easy for you and what's difficult for you. And by working on those basic things, because you're learning a very specific thing, you have a very small thing to look at. It's easier to focus on that. It's not like when you're looking at your still life and you're like, well, this is boring. There's too much stuff. There's too much stuff to look at. Filter it down. Filtering it down is what helps you learn stuff from it. And if you don't filter it down, you're not going to learn much of anything. If you try to do all of it, you're not going to be able to categorize. Your brain's not going to be able to handle that because you're learning new stuff. But the new stuff that you're learning is just all unrelated because you do this thing and that thing and that thing and that thing and that thing. If you focus on just doing one thing, if you focus on just dot, line to the 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 dot, if you just focus on that, you're going to make a lot more progress a lot faster than if you're trying to do 50 things at once. Now, one of the things that I'm guilty of doing is spending too much time practicing and too much time working on the simple stuff, and then I don't go and put it all together into a large piece. If you don't go and put it together into a large piece, well, what are you bothering to practice for? Like, what even is the purpose? But You can start directly with your concentrics if you want. You can do any shape you want for your concentrics. You can do triangles. You can extend it outside. You can go back through and you can do in between again, if you think you have room. There's all kinds of ways that you can modify this and make it the real skills that you're really going to use, because you have to do this over and over again. You need to go to that point. You need to go between these 2 points. You need to go through that third point. You need to go right alongside that curve. You need to go right alongside that line. You need to go in between these 2 lines. These are problems that you will face over and over and over again, is that you have to do this thing where here's the line and here's the other line that you need to put in the middle. And putting these things where they need to go is the skill that you're going to need as an artist. You're going to need these things over and over again. So practicing them and working on the very simple questions is always going to improve your ability to build larger things out of this. Because every drawing that you ever see, I mean, technically it's all made out of lines, you know? The whole thing's always lines. And because the whole thing's always lines, you know that being able to draw a line from point A to point B, that's a critical skill. You know that for perspective, you identify your vanishing point. And once you've identified your vanishing point, anything that you draw that you want to be in 3D, well, that needs to go to the vanishing point, doesn't it? And that's from this point to this point. That's the line you need to draw. This point to this point. That's the line you need to draw. Doesn't matter which direction you draw it, but it needs to be drawn. Cut the line where it needs to be cut, right there. Then you can erase the part of the line you don't need. And you're going to run into these kinds of things over and over again. You're going to have to do the same basic techniques, the same basic tactics every single time that you work on anything at all. And just working on those basic techniques, it gives you the tools so that whenever you come across something and you're like, oh, I have to draw a car. Well, drawing a car is really just drawing a box. Let's go back to our smaller. Drawing a car is really just about drawing a box. And that box has other boxes on top of it. It's got cylinders for the wheels. You put those cylinders in perspective. You appropriately portray them as being underneath appropriate parts of the vehicle. And by putting all of these pieces together, you can start to assemble something that begins to look like a car. You can say, here's the headlight. Well, the headlight has a headlight lens, and the headlight lens sits inside of the trim. That trim sits alongside a grill. And the grill sits there, and inside of the grill, you have all of these individual lines. Now, obviously, I'm drawing without reference. I'm not trying to draw any particular car. But then you say, oh, there's a bumper that sits here, and that sits in front. That sits in front of everything, and that's just another box that kind of extrudes outward. And you could gradually build up the individual pieces. You could go, the car has a windscreen, the car has a roof, And you could go through and you could put in all of these elements and gradually work your way through to having the pieces of a car. And initially it looks like absolute fucking garbage because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. But it doesn't take that long of just going, well, a car has this, a car has that, a car has the other. It doesn't take a whole lot of that before you start getting something that starts to look like a car. And you can go, okay, well, this is screwed up. Like right here, the roof of this car is way too small. Who is sitting in this car? If you imagine the head of a person right here, they're sitting all the way down here and their legs are sticking out here. The car's not long enough. The wheels are too big. And you can start looking at the individual problems. You can go, this is what I screwed up, and you could start to fix it. You could start to fix all of the individual pieces until you've fixed the entire piece of work. And that's how you get complete pieces of work, is by gradually working your way through. And this is kind of a do as I say, not as I do thing, because if you go back and you look at something like, if I pull out, let's see, if I pull out something like, if I pull out this lamppost picture that I've been working on for months, I've got like the basic layout of it, but I'm not doing any of the details because I don't know how to do them properly. And what I really need to do is just go in here and do it bad. I need to do it fucked up like I did with literally every panel in this comic. Every panel in this comic is fucked up in some way or other. There's something I didn't do right. And what I need to do is I need to go into this, I need to do it fucked up, and then after I do it fucked up, I can go, well, this is why it's fucked up, and then I can fix it. But I'm not doing that. I should be doing that. And that's very much a thing that I need to be thinking about doing. But that's kind of how everything fits together, is you always start, no matter what you do, the first thing you're doing is, I need a line from point A to point B. I need a line that goes from here to there. I need a curve that goes through that point there. You need to work on your line quality. Make your line fairly thick and try to give yourself nice tapered edges on your line. Then try to do that from point A to point B. As you work on your line quality and you try to improve that, you get all of these little things that you start to put together. Your ability to draw a nice bold line that trails off at the end. Your ability to lead into the line. Lead out, lead in. Make fat ends on your line. Make thin ends on your line. Make a thin end on the beginning. Make a thin end on the end. Working on your line quality like that, that's a quote-unquote more advanced thing. But it's all of this stuff that you put together, and it's all of these little pieces. And you make all of these little pieces easy. And when you make all of the little pieces easy, then the whole thing becomes easy. There's a thing that we used to say all the time at my dojo, are small things important? And the canonical answer was, small things are everything. If you don't know how to make a fist, it doesn't matter how many techniques you know. It doesn't matter how hard you can punch. If you don't know how to make a fist properly, and we use the Okinawan technique at my dojo, then it doesn't matter what techniques you're using, because none of them are going to work properly. You don't know the basics. And if you don't know the basics, then you're never going to be able to do anything effectively. Obviously, I don't know them as well as I should. I'm not perfect. I missed every single one of these. None of them ended up exactly where it needed to go. I think maybe this one did. Maybe that one ended up exactly where it needed to go. Maybe this one ended up exactly where it needed to go. But all the rest, that one came in too high, that one came in too low, this one overshot and came in too low, this one came in too short. All of these are fucked up. This one, I think, ended up where it needed to be. But you work on these basic things because by working on the small things, on the basic things, it's not boring. And you want to keep it from being boring, because if it's boring, you're not going to do it. Whenever you do this, you can see what you did wrong. You see what you did wrong, and you go, oh, I know what that was. I came up short. Let me try that again. Oh, now on this one, I came in a little bit high, I went a little bit over, and the line's not very straight. Let's try that again. Again, I came up short. Again, I came up short. This time I went over. That's actually pretty good. That only went a little tiny bit over. Maybe let's try it again. Maybe let's try to get it perfect. A little bit low, a little bit short, a little bit thin at the end. That came up a little bit short. That came up a little bit short. There. It takes several tries, but you get it right. And you hit undo and you try again, and you hit undo and you try again, and you hit undo and you try again, because it's digital. You can do that with digital. When you're working outside of the digital space, you don't have that option. You have your 2 points. You want to get it right the first time. If you don't get it right the first time, you can erase if you're using pencil, but if you're using ballpoint pen, you're just screwed. If you're using paint, you're just screwed. And all of that stuff fits together, but you have to do the practice. And the important thing about when something is boring is you're trying to do too much. There's too much stuff in there. And what you have to do is you have to do something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit simpler. And you need to concentrate on just the part that's important. Like you want to concentrate on just the values. I want to concentrate on just the values. What the hell is... That. Oh, that's view selection. Okay. Close gap tolerance area scaling. Okay. Why is that expanding outward? That's not supposed to expand outward. I've got the area selected. I've got this area selected. It's because I know why. It's because I'm working on a vector layer and not on a raster layer. You spray paint in transparent? Holy shit, you can. You could spray paint alpha. Working with stuff like this, and then working with simpler concepts. Smaller areas. can help you work out concepts that would be harder if you were trying to focus on a whole lot of stuff at once. And focusing on a whole lot of stuff at once is just going to confuse you. It's not going to make anything better. But it's been like 45 minutes. I don't know if I've been all that coherent on this, but I tried to get something across. So I hope this was helpful. Man. But yeah, I've been talking way too much. My throat is killing me. So I'm going to go ahead and bail. Like, comment, subscribe, do the little YouTube dance, all of that happy horse shit. And okay, bye.